Alright, welcome everybody to another, not really countdown of sorts, but another series of reviews. Since you guys enjoyed the Spider-Man one so much, we figured it was only going to be a matter of time before we had to do Star Wars ones. So, today we're actually going to be recording two reviews back to back, because we're not going to be doing this as a weekly thing, it's just whenever we feel like recording them and whenever I feel like putting them up. So, I mean, we can do them in chronological order, but we figured start off with, in my opinion, the best trilogy. So today we were talking about Star Wars A New Hope. This movie definitely holds a pretty big place in just movie history. Cinema history.
Yeah, because about this movie, you got to remember, at the time, everyone saw stories about George Lucas is planning to do a movie called Star Wars, and they're like, "Huh, what's that?" Because they had no idea. And so at the time, it was low budget, if I remember correctly. It was pretty low budget because they didn't nobody knew if the movie was going to do well, and then it literally exploded into the biggest franchise in movie.
It was only put in a few select theaters,
and then it explodes into the biggest franchise in movie history, in my opinion.
One of the biggest.
One of the biggest, and definitely one of the most popular in just cinema and movie history.
Starting off with what we didn't like.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to think hard about that one.
Yeah, this is a bit of an interesting one. I will say, of course this is when newer releases, but some people will say the whole the special effects and the CGI and everything. But that's something you kind of have to keep in mind. Yeah, because this is 1977.
It was 1977, and it was very low budget.
Exactly. So, I mean, even though the budget is a thing.
Yeah, and I've seen a thing where Mark Hamill, the guy who plays Luke Skywalker, he talked about how they did the lightsaber things. They took this straight up metal rod, put it in the lightsaber hilt, and they coated it with something that would reflect with the camera, and it made the lights it reflected with the camera's lens, and it made that glow. The special effects were very budget, and I think for the time they were okay.
Yeah, that's something you really have to keep in mind, is that you have to view it as if you were in that time period.
77, yeah.
So for 1977, I feel like the budget was pretty good. I do have one thing. It's not really something I don't like, but it's more something I think is kind of in the middle. It's it's parts of Luke's character. He sort of feels like a whiny farm boy. Not terribly, because he still has his good moments throughout this movie, and he's still likable. But when you're first introduced to him, you're just kind of on him. But I think that's that is one thing I do like about this trilogy as a whole, though, is that you see where he starts and you see where he ends in this trilogy.
Yes.
It's incredible.
I think it's the same. I'm the same way with, I think, Leia. Carrie Fisher's just fantastic. Rest in peace. But, yeah, I think she gets better. In the first movie, she's all right. She's not as, wooden and, just, emotionless as Natalie Portman, who we'll talk about. I was going to
say Rey.
And Rey, and Natalie Portman, who we'll talk about in a couple movies, but I think she gets so much better as the movies progress. That's really my only...
Even in the first one, she was fine, because she's face-to-face with Vader, and she's just I'm not telling you anything.
That's kind of cool, yeah.
And I was yeah, I like that.
And we'll talk about Vader when we get to stuff we do like. But I don't really... Other than that, I don't have anything that I don't like, because this movie's...
Yeah, I really don't either.
This is great.
Just getting into the stuff we do, pretty much every single character in this film.
Vader. Oh my gosh, Vader.
Let's start Vader.
The greatest movie villain
of all time. And if you say otherwise, you're lying to yourself. Straight up.
If you say Thanos, leave this video right now. Immediately.
I could see that being argued, but even then, I feel like the only movie villain that could compete with Vader even a little bit is probably, even though he's not really a movie villain, Joker. It's just in villains in general.
Heath Ledger Joker's up there too. I think Heath Ledger Joker's up there.
He's the only one that could even contend with it. But even still, Darth Vader,
and it's the fact that
he's Darth Vader.
And it's the fact that Palpatine is the main villain, and Darth Vader's Vader's the second in command. But Vader is so much more just intimidating.
And he doesn't
He's
feel
terrifying.
he doesn't feel like a lackey.
No.
Like even when he's next to Palpatine, he never feels like a lackey. Which I mean, Palpatine isn't introduced until Empire, but
that's true. And the way that they made Vader's character, the guy, I forgot the name of the guy that is in the suit on set. I forgot his name.
But the voice is James Earl Jones.
The voice is so good. And if you didn't know, he's also the voice of Mufasa in Lion King. He's so good. And it was weird because I think Carrie Fisher was the one that said on set, you see the guy in the suit, I still, again, forgot his name, but you'll see him with the helmet on, and he's, like, intimidating, but he takes his helmet off, and he's, like, this, like, really nice, like, dude, but he's, like, 6'6", so he's huge.
Golly.
Yeah, he's, like, 6'6".
That is intimidating.
Vader is just, there's no other word besides iconic, and...
Darth Vader is the definition of iconic, in my opinion.
As soon as you saw him...
Everybody who is... Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, you know who Darth Vader is.
Yeah, he's one of the few movie characters where if you say Darth Vader, they literally, probably 95 out of 100 people will know who you're talking about, if not all.
Yeah.
It's just, and his costume too. His costume is great. The costume is incredible. Cool. And his costume changes like slightly over the three, but it
makes sense because when the movies start getting more budget, of course.
Because in the first one, in A New Hope, you see Vader, his like, it's the same kind of thing as, I forgot what Batman movie it was, but his head movement is kind of like constricted because
that was the Michael Keaton one.
Yes, it's part because the helmet is like, I think it's part of the shoulder thing, like it like connects to it. But in later movies, you see him like freely move his head. But in the first one, he's a little bit more constricted. That's why. In that, like, obviously, that the Ben Kenobi Vader fight scene, they don't move around a lot because he was kind of constricted. But in later movies, it's so good. It's fantastic.
Just going through some other characters who were like, again, Luke in this movie, I mean, I like Luke.
He gets really good in Empire.
He gets really good in Empire. He reaches that
fantastic in Return.
In Return of the Jedi. Han Solo.
Okay, if you ask me who is the definition of somebody that was born to play a role, it's Harrison Ford as Han Solo, and I don't think it's remotely close. And I understand there's like Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and stuff like that.
I was going to say him and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
But Harrison Ford as Han, he plays himself. If you've ever like seen Harrison Ford in an interview, he acts like Han. Like he's like quick to joke around. It's just it's so good.
I can understand that point being made. Han is just such a he's a character who like you're really not supposed to. He's not the most likable.
No,
he's not the most like he has his moments where you do like him, but like most of the characters in these movies really sometimes they tolerate him at best.
He's kind of a jerk. He's kind of a jerk sometimes,
especially Leia. But you really see the bond between. That's something I love about all these movies is just the fact that you really see the bond that Luke, Leia, and Han have because they're pretty much together right from the like they're in the middle of this film, and you really see the bond between these characters grow through each film.
And
which is something that is sorely missed in the sequel trilogy, but we're gonna get there.
We are in fact going to get there. But
if you're not a Star Wars fan, you're gonna want to watch The Last Jedi review. Trust me.
It will be less a review and more of a rant because
it's gonna be a rant.
Logan will be here for that one. I'll be the voice of reason. You two will be doing.
Plus, whoever else wants to be part of these.
Okay, something else good.
I mean,
hold on. C-3PO and R2-D2.
They're the first people you see.
They're the first people you see. They're the only two characters that are in every single Star Wars movie, and for a good reason.
Because they are hilarious. They're
such
a good duo.
Same thing as Vader. People that are not Star Wars fans or movie fans at all will recognize either R2-D2 or C-3PO.
True.
Anthony Daniels, again, is perfect casting. Even though it's just voice casting, it's perfect. Is he in the suit, or am I insane?
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he was.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. But Anthony Daniels still plays C-3PO to this day, and he won't stop playing him until he dies.
I can't think of a single C-3PO performance where Anthony Daniels wasn't.
Or it's not like it'll be.
It doesn't matter if it's a short special.
It'll be
if it's a TV show. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's C-3PO, there is a 99% chance that it's Anthony.
Even
Daniels.
If it's like some random like Lego Star Wars like like movie. Like what? It's Anthony Daniels,
Like,
and then
obviously.
R2, for obvious. Yeah, it's great. It's great.
We've pretty much talked about all the main ones, but of course, I mean, you talk about Chewie. You can't understand him, of course, but
Yeah,
he's like one of the most likable characters.
He's great.
Like, you don't know what he's saying, but you sort of get a feeling for what he says. Just, I mean, it helps because like all the characters are sort of like responding to him in a way where you're like, oh, okay, he said this or he said that.
and it's weird seeing the dude under that mask too. I again forgot his name, but he's absolutely massive. I forgot. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's like 6'8" or something like that.
Golly.
Something insane like that. But it's.
I mean, it makes sense to make him. To really give it that feeling of like Chewie and even Vader feel different is because having that extra size.
Yeah. Oh,
really
yeah.
helps
They
with
went
that.
above and beyond with casting in this movie and just everything.
Yeah.
You could tell George Lucas loved making this movie.
Yeah, and even you can tell he really loved making most of this
Most
franchise.
of them.
That's why I said most. Because I mean, the original trilogy was really where he had like, I would say like the most control between this and the prequels. These were probably ones he had the most control in.
Yeah.
Because you really feel like these movies, even though like the prequels are really divided, you can really tell that he really had a lot of fun making all these movies and really like showing care for this entire franchise.
Yeah.
Once again, missed in the sequel trilogy. The Millennium Falcon is one of the most iconic ships of all time.
Yep.
It's so cool. Like you see everything this ship goes through, and it's a miracle this ship hasn't been destroyed.
It's still a thing.
Yeah. It's so cool.
Because it goes from Lando, which we'll talk about next week. I love Lando. From Lando to Han,
Which they go in depth with that in the Solo movie.
it goes everywhere, and it's just so.
But it was best with Han and Chewie.
Yes, and pretty much all the ships in this movie, like the TIE fighters were interesting looking.
The TIE fighter, especially, and I like how Vader has his own TIE
Vader's
fighter.
Vader's is like curved. The others are like flat, like that. Vader's is like curved.
The X-wings are so
X-wings
cool.
are sick.
Important.
X-wings are so cool.
Of course, we gotta talk about the Death Star
The Death
because
Star.
this video we pretty much only talked about like characters and all that because it's a pretty simple plot to this movie.
That's true. It's straight from point A to point B, and it's
because it's again like just stopping the Empire and like stopping the Death Star and like Luke joining the Resistance. That's pretty much that. So what really holds this movie is the simple plot really works with this film.
It's effective.
And just because of the fact that it's the start of this franchise and because so many of these characters are so well written and just so likable, that they're really what carry this film. Because the Death Star is one of the coolest things to like ever exist.
Because you see it for the first time and you're like, that's not terrifying. That's not intimidating at all. And then it blows up a planet and you're like, okay.
Okay, never mind.
Never mind, cool.
Because I feel like there's really only one thing we haven't talked about yet.
I'm trying to think about what you're talking about.
Ben Kenobi.
Alec Guinness, rest in peace. He's so good. He's so good.
He was really... You really got that feeling that he was just a wiser character who had, like, been through a lot, which, of course, you get a lot more once we get to the prequels, of course.
Oh, yeah, and they do a good job, because, like, if you look at Ewan McGregor, he looks like Alec Guinness. Like, if you aged him, it would probably look like exactly like Alec Guinness.
One inconsistency that I thought was kind of annoying, but I don't blame this on this movie. I think it's more of, like, the prequels fault, really, unless I just missed something. The fact that Obi-Wan doesn't recognize R2.
Yes. Yes.
Because now R2 makes sense because they explain, jumping ahead, they explain in Revenge of the Sith that actually no, because they just mind wipe 3PO. Not R2, but R2 can't really communicate with anybody. So that's one thing I thought was kind of weird, but
it's a smaller thing, but it's there.
It's a nitpick. But Ben Kenobi is incredible.
Alec Guinness is so good.
And even though the fight between him and Vader is so simple,
it's again effective.
It's because it's the first one, so it's like it's not going to be as extravagant. So you have to really keep that in mind.
And if you're a Star Wars fan, there's a video.
There it is.
There's a video that I forgot what the person's name is, but if you look up like Ben Kenobi, Darth Vader fight like reanimated, it'll probably show up. They basically remade that entire fight and did it all with like CGI, and it's like to make it look like the fight was filmed like now, and it's so good. They incorporate music. We got to talk about music too. They incorporate like some of the music from the prequels and all like different sound clips of Anakin talking, and it's so good. It like goosebumps, man. It's so good. But anyways,
yeah,
that's a separate video. It's so good. It's got like millions of views or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's an insane video. I guess the final thing we gotta talk about, or one of the final things, the music.
The music is... Oh.
John Williams is...
You've outdone yourself, my friend.
He has made some of the most iconic... Pretty much, if you think of like any iconic music, there's a 99% chance that it's from John Williams. He did this. He did Superman.
He did
Jaws. He's done so much that I'm just like... How?
And the Imperial March, Vader's theme song is,
which I believe is brought in Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, but I'm gonna go ahead and mention it here, but we'll mention it next video too.
We'll mention it again in the next video.
Yeah, but it's again we've said this a lot in this video. Iconic. It's so like if you hear it, you know exactly what it is immediately as it starts playing. And then I forgot what the name of the song is called, but like Luke's theme when you first see him on Tatooine. Like, basically the main Star Wars theme song. Yeah,
that's pretty much just the Star Wars theme.
It's so, like, it's
iconic.
It's recognizable as soon as you hear it, and it's great.
So good.
And it plays in probably every movie. It has to.
I believe it does, because at the very least it plays in the credits.
Yes.
You know, the end of the movie, they blow up Luke blows up the Death Star, and you get that whole, like, him and, Han being recognized as heroes and everything, and
also another thing I like, my favorite scene in the movie is the trash compactor scene. I love that scene so much. It's so hilarious. The with them, like it's where they infiltrate and they have like the stormtrooper clothes on,
and they've rescued Leia.
Leia, and it's great. That's my favorite because it shows the chemistry between the actors, like with the back and forth banter that they have, it's really good.
Yeah,
that's my favorite scene in the movie.
So, the movie as a whole, this is, as we've said again multiple times, but this is like the pure definition of this word. This is the definition of an iconic film. This film started out what is argued to be one of if not the biggest franchise in cinema history, and it's branched out into so many things. It's had so many spin-off, like just random shows, other like video games, comics. It's just, this movie was what started Star Wars, and again, it does it perfectly. Yes, because again, you have so many of the different comics that go more in depth with like the journeys that some of these characters have been through, like some of the journeys that Vader goes on between Revenge of the Sith and
there's so much lore that's not in any of the movies. There's so like it branches out into all this giant universe, and it all comes from this one low budget movie that nobody thought was going to do well.
Yeah, because then you have like stuff like the video games creating their own stuff with stuff like, you know, Jedi Fallen Order. And you got like all these other spin-off shows, like The Mandalorian being the biggest one.
We got to do that. We'll do that one day.
One day. That show is
probably sooner rather than later, because I don't think he can take it.
No, I can't.
All right, what are we thinking rating-wise?
I'm probably gonna have to. Ooh, this is a tough one. I'm gonna have to give this movie a 9.5 out of 10.
All right.
This movie is. Again, it's the start of Star Wars, and despite its like kind of simple plot, it works because it's so cool. Because like it's out in space. It's, as the beginning of every movie says, it's in a galaxy far, far away, and it's just so cool how this movie managed to pull this off. No matter how much people were like, "Oh, it's gonna suck," and it just worked perfectly. Yeah. So it's definitely going to be a 9.5 from me.
Yeah. For me, I'm not even going to think about it. This movie's a 10. I'm sticking by it because this movie, this is the first movie I think of whenever I think of a classic. a classic movie that's just there's no like real flaws in this movie. The only thing that me and you said were like that Luke and Leia's characters aren't the best in this movie, but that's because they get better.
But they're still good in this film.
Yes,
they're just nowhere near as good as they are later
and
on.
they just grow as the movies go on, and I think that's also because Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher at the time I don't think were too experienced.
No, they weren't.
But
they would have had a little bit, but not
they
much. This was without a doubt their first big roles.
They get so much better as it goes on and makes them into what Carrie Fisher was before she died and what Mark Hamill is today. And I like it's just really cool. If you like rewatch it, you're like, dang, George Lucas really came up like with this whole universe just in his mind, and he put it onto the screen just perfectly, I think. So I give it a 10, and I think it's only outdone by two other Star Wars movies, but we're gonna get to those.
I think I have a pretty good idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're gonna get to those, one of them pretty soon. So
yeah, so that's gonna have to do it for the first of the Star Wars videos. This is a bit weird to say, but we are going to record the next one right after this, because the next one is going to be probably arguably one of the most popular Star Wars movies, because I think the two movies you're talking about are arguably the most popular Star Wars movies. But next time we're doing Empire Strikes Back. And
yup. Let's get into it.
That's gonna be man.
We're into Star Wars now, man.
Yep, we have finally begun Star Wars. We've now started, so there's no going back.
Let's do it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Whenever we start doing, because depending on how it goes, because we might just record 2 videos at a time, depending on how it works.
Yeah.
But, so we'll record Return of the Jedi and maybe Phantom Menace at a separate time.
I'm ready for that one.
Yeah. In terms of the people we know who are going to be in some of these future reviews, Logan is definitely going to have to be in some of them.
Yeah.
Caden Emerson mentioned he's going to want to be a part of them. Of course, Taylor Johnson is going to want to be a part of these.
Come back, Taylor.
Yeah. So those are the main 3 I know.
But there will probably be more.
There will probably definitely be a lot more. So I'm hoping that people are more interested in these kind of reviews, because the Scream video didn't do a whole lot.
It was just a bad movie, man. Let's move on from that.
Yeah, it was. So hopefully this will be more with you guys are more interested in, because I know the Spider-Man thing is the main thing, but hopefully that's the case with these as well, because yeah, who doesn't? Star Wars is one of the most popular.
Doesn't like Star Wars, and if you say me, leave.
Yeah, that's gonna have to do it. So stay tuned for the Empire Strikes Back video, which we're gonna record right after this. So see y'all later, Whippets.